This lens retails at $68, brand new with warranty. I admit I was skeptical about it, but as soon as I started using it, it was clear it is better than the price suggests. It is very small, only 3.5 cm long without the lens hood, and weighs 195 grams. Panasonic and Olympus 25mm lenses are lighter, but they are made mostly from plastic, while Pergear seems to be entirely from metal. Even the supplied lens hood is metal. This is a fully mechanical lens, there are no electrical contacts, no EXIF data is transmitted to the camera, and both focus and aperture are set manually. There are two control rings on the lens. Manual focus ring glides smoothly and has uniform film, but it is a bit too light for my taste. It is very easy to move it accidentally and nudge the lens out of focus. Second ring adjusts aperture. It is free to turn all the way. There are no clicks at various aperture values. This is great for video enthusiasts, as they can adjust aperture smoothly during ongoing recording. But still image photographers might not like this solution so much, as it is impossible to adjust aperture by feel. You need to look at the ring to know what value you are at. Front element accepts 43mm filters. Lens hood is screw type, but when used there is another 43mm thread inside the hood, so you can still attach the filter inside. Also there is a second thread on the tip of the hood. This one is 52mm, so you can attach the filter here as well. Polarizer, for example, is much easier to use at this position compared to internal hood mount, where it is hard to reach and rotate. I am quite surprised by this level of attention to detail. You even get a soft lens pouch with the lens. Remember, we are still talking about a $68 product. Okay, so far so good. Let's take a look at image quality. Center of the frame is very sharp, already wide open. It gets a bit more contrast top down, but nothing major. Corners are softer and need to be close to f8 to get them perfectly sharp. Actually, it is not that they cannot be sharp, but this lens exhibits field curvature. When focused on something in corners, they are visibly sharper, but the center will be blurred at that point. I expected something like this. After all, it is a $68 lens. Focus shift is not an issue, and even if it was, it wouldn't matter. This lens has manual aperture and you are always focusing at the same aperture value at which the image will be taken, and this by definition compensates for any focus shift and makes it irrelevant. Focus breathing is visible but is not strong. I would say this is average result. There are much worse lenses out there. Lateral chromatic aberration are basically non-existent. The last image in this series is the worst what I saw in all of my real-life shots, and that can be eliminated with one click in the Adobe Camera Raw. Longitudinal chromatic aberrations are somewhat present but are low and rarely appear in real-life shots. Quite good performance. Pergear 25mm lens is perfectly corrected. I cannot spot even the slightest geometric distortion. Coma is visible in the corners wide open, but gets much better at f2.8 and almost disappears by f4. It is actually surprisingly usable in real life. Light falloff is not a big problem. You can see it wide open, but in real life I never found it to pose a problem in images. At certain angles, flare and loss of contrast can be pronounced, especially if the light source is around halfway from the center of the frame. Also, in more than one image I noticed ugly artifacts around light sources in some of my night shots. This appears with apertures larger than roughly f2.5. I tried closing aperture during video recording, so it is easily visible how it disappears at one point. Bokeh looks fine, not as smooth as possible, but quite decent at this price point. It is very reminiscent of how it is rendered by vintage lens designs, on which this lens is probably based upon. I am also pleased with the look of light sources which are out of focus. Closest focus is around 20 cm from the subject. I couldn't find information on the magnification, but I guess it is around 0.15 or similar, not a lot. enough for occasional close-up but nowhere near true macro. There are 10 aperture blades in this lens, contrary to information on the official website which states 12. They produce decent looking 10-pointed sunstar. For conclusion, I can say I am actually quite impressed. Realistically, I see only two downsides: field curvature, which might or might not be seen on some images, and weak flare resistance. Aside from that, real-life images turned up perfectly fine. I am sure that if you didn't know which lens was used, there is no way you would have guessed these images were taken with a $68 product. Obviously, there is no autofocus and no EXIF, but if you are fine with manual focus, go ahead, buy it. This is one of the best price-to-performance deals in Micro Four Thirds system. That's it, all the links you need are in the description below this video, and if you have a question, comment section is open as always. Thanks for watching.